Hello there, and welcome to our second segment of Open Mind Safe Spaces brought to you by Inspiron Psychological Wellbeing Center. I'm Davalika, and we are bringing something very special to you. Together, we're going to be answering and exploring some of the questions shared by you anonymously. We're also going to be sharing some thoughtful advices, learning and unlearning. So, let's get started. Never been able to commit to a relationship. I run when it gets serious, but I'm sad when they leave. What to do? Well, it's painful to feel torn between wanting closeness but also fearing it. Now, many people often experience this. Let's take an example. Now, imagine a child approaching the side of the pool, the edge of the pool, right? Now, they may kind of hesitate jumping in because they fear water. However, they still want to dive in very enthusiastically, right? Now, often what may happen is that in this enthusiasm of wanting to dive into something new, right, they may forget that, hey, do I even know swimming? Can I swim in that depth of the pool, right? Now, if you find yourself feeling relatable to this experience, now this may sometimes come as a fear of commitment, right? Now, this stems from our past experiences, the fear of vulnerability, or perhaps even self-doubt sometimes. Now, understanding the root can help, right? So, looking back at if in our past or in our childhood, if we may have gone through something, or perhaps the lack of something in itself or between our family members that has led to this. So exploring this may also allow you to be able to understand this more in depth. But what can you do about it is to sit and reflect that, hey, what does commitment mean to me specifically? How can we try to take part in conversation with the other person as well, that what does commitment in this relationship look like for them? So instead of immediately being an enthusiastic child and diving straight in, let's maybe try to slowly build a relationship with the pool. Maybe starting with dipping the toe, slowly seeing how does it work for you and the other person as well, and then navigating it through. Now, if you find yourself feeling you'd like to explore this more in depth, please reach out to your therapist and explore this topic more. How can I tell if what I'm feeling is actually burnout? I've been really exhausted, detached from my work, and just not motivated anymore. Well, now, feeling exhausted and detached is incredibly challenging. And if you are somebody who is going through it, I understand that it is tough and it is also very difficult to be able to navigate through this. Now, let's look a little bit more deeper on what burnout can feel like. Now, in initial times when you are joining the work, you may find yourself going through that initial phase, the honeymoon phase, where you are extremely motivated, extremely enthusiastic about your work, your role, your responsibilities. You may also take part in more, right? Now, post this, you may start noticing a little bit of feelings of cynicism, feeling of disinterested. You may find yourself feeling that your motivation is slowly reducing. Now, this can also start looking like you not being able to keep up with the work pressure, unable to maintain the deadlines that are also there. And it can also come up as a feeling of constant exhaustion and fatigue, both mentally and physically as well. And this can also hamper the amount of motivation and productiveness that you have at your work. Now, if you are somebody who is noticing these few patterns, you may also start noticing that there is going to be a prolonged stress as well. And you're not going to be able to deal and manage through this stress effectively, leading you to sometimes feeling helpless as well. Now, if you are somebody who is going through these few concerns, it is very essential that you reach out to any professional close to you to be able to seek assistance regarding this. And if you're unable to, please reach out and check in with yourself as well, that how can you try to take a step back. Now, where can we try to draw certain limitations for ourselves at our workspace as well? That, hey, what is within my capacity that I can put in, and what are certain non-negotiables here, right? And taking part in communicating the same, standing with the kind of roles and responsibilities we have, rather than giving to ambiguous roles and responsibilities at work. Now, you can take part in that by having open conversations at your workplace as well. And if you're unable to, please reach out to the closest profession that you can to be able to help you not only deal through with this, but also gearing you up with all the effective tools and techniques to be able to deal through with your workplace. What's the best way to handle conflicts with difficult co-workers? I find it really challenging to communicate with them without escalating the situation. Now, if you are somebody who has found yourself in this kind of a situation, I know it can be very frustrating to be able to deal with difficult conversations and in workspace as well. Now, why could there be a certain amount of friction? Now, let's take an example of the game of tug of war, right? Now, if you're somebody who is taking part in difficult conversation with somebody who has a very strong and tight grip on the other end of the rope, right? You both are going to be constantly finding yourself pulling it. Now, this can come from a space of both feeling threatened or triggered, or also not taking feedback as constructively as we would like to, right? But now this is the space where we find ourselves trying to take a step back, loosen the grip of the role, and taking this moment and reflecting on the dynamic that we share with this individual. Now, it's essential to understand that sometimes communication or perhaps even the lack of communication not only can lead to misunderstanding and miscommunication, the communication styles as well may vary. That also has one more of the reasons why there can be conflict between us. So how can you try to mitigate such situations in your workplace? Well, first is to try to understand that our work or certain conversations such as these may not be personal to us, right? Second is to be able to also reflect on what certain conversations the other person is trying to have with us. So what you can take part in is to do active listening. Now, active listening is where we try to withhold any form of judgment or certain other opinions that we may have in that moment, right? And rather taking part in listening to what the other person may want to share. Now, how do we do that is with three things. Number one, with openness. Can we be open to what the other person may want to share with us, their experience here? Second being, can we be curious? Can we be curious about how certain conversations or certain form of actions that we take intentionally or unintentionally may also have an impact on this other individual, right? Thirdly, can we try to be genuine here? Genuinely understanding that our actions or our words, whether they are intended or unintended, still may have had an impact on this person, and genuinely letting the other person know that we understand or perhaps we hear them. Right? Now, in this space, using I statements instead of taking part in you statements, which can sometimes come out as somebody making us feel attacked about our actions, about our things as well. Now, if that so happens, using I statements allows them to be able to understand and for us to be able to communicate our personal experience in these places. So instead of me saying that, hey, you're very rude to me in these conversations, instead of saying that, sometimes stating that, hey, I find myself feeling a little threatened or perhaps dismissed when I do not receive the right amount of appreciation for the work that I had in this team project. So, take part in active listening with one of your co-workers and do let us know how it goes. What can I do to better achieve work-life balance? I'm struggling to juggle my job and personal life. Well, if you are somebody who is struggling to juggle between your work and personal life, I understand that it can be very difficult sometimes. Now, not being able to find a balance can lead to us feeling dissatisfied with the kind of work that we may be taking currently. Now, it can also come up as prolonged stress, anxiety, and also manifest into different other areas of our lives, probably our relationships, our socials, and also with our own selves sometimes. Now, why is balance even important? Now, having a balanced life supports not only your well-being, but also supports your productivity, your passion, and interest as well that you may have towards your work. Now, how can we try to sometimes bring that balance at work? Is the first thing to do is to assess your own expectations that you have with your work, the expectations that others have from you based on your role and your responsibilities. Assessing the kind of workload that you have currently. What are certain personal commitments that stand in our way as well? Now, understanding and evaluating this can allow us to be able to assess what are our needs, our expectations, and our requirements as well. Now, once you're able to understand these, it becomes easy for us to be able to navigate through this using some form of assertive communication as well. Sometimes this could look like setting scheduled work hours, right? Sometimes it can also look like being able to communicate what our roles and responsibilities also are. Now, if you are somebody who is looking forward of learning more ways of being able to bring that balance to your work and your life, well then reach out to the closest mental health professional next to you.